Standing at the finish line at Zandvoort, you see the normal sights of a racetrack. However, if you climb up the hill to the outside of the circuit, the North Sea expands out directly in front of you. With this being the championship finale, who will be left to relax and enjoy the beach? And who will be left to kick sand and wonder what could have been? We'll find out soon as we get ready to watch the PCA Sim Racing Series 8 live here on Podium Esports. Hi, I'm Joe Peak, and with me in the booth tonight is DJ Clark and Rachel Whiteford. Cameron Aubernon is on social media along with Ryan Bauer producing, who is using cameras provided by Dougie Beard. Now that F1 has finally returned, Zandvoort has gotten quite the facelift the last couple of years. Let's take a look at how it appeared before those alterations took place with our track guide. Welcome to Zandvoort. This track just to the west of Amsterdam fell into obscurity, but is getting new life in recent times thanks to a resurgence of Formula One fans in the country. Back in the mid-20th century, it hosted the Formula One Dutch Grand Prix for nearly 30 years. Granted, it was on a much faster and more flowing layout. Nowadays, the 5 different versions which are available to be run are mostly tight and technical. The shortest one is a little under a mile, while even the longest only stretches to a little over 2.5 miles. These tiny lengths, plus the narrowness of the track and its lack of long straights, make passing almost maddeningly difficult. The 2 most common spots are Tarzan, which is the first corner, and Hans Ernst, which is the final chicane. Even though it has recently been updated in the real world with more banking, even on the old track here on iRacing, it has an unusual amount of camber for a road course. The 2 aforementioned turns, along with Hugenholtz and Schieflock, allow drivers to carry more speed than you'd expect. It also gives drivers a chance to take slightly unusual lines. Like most old school tracks, runoff is minimal. Mistakes in a few of the faster turns tend to allow no time for recovery and a big repair bill. Another unique quality is the fact that Zandvoort is literally next to the beach on the North Sea. Therefore, the sand easily blows its way onto the track surface and lessens grip. It's a tricky place to race, and even trickier circuit to win at. But with the beautiful surroundings, great history, and a mob of enthusiastic fans donning orange, you can't help but want to go visit this fantastic venue. Well, DJ, it's tight, it's twisty, it's pretty much the antithesis to what we saw last week.
Yeah, it is indeed, Joe. And drivers are going to have a real challenge around here, specifically trying to get an overtake done. There are 2 relatively decent zones, 3 maybe, and that's going into the first corner of Tarzan. You may be able to see a pass or 2 done through 7 and 8. That's down through Schlievlock and Masters. And then maybe, if you're very brave, down into Hans Ernst, that 11 and 12 complex. But really and truly, this is going to be a race where drivers are going to have to just find their rhythm and be racing the track as much as they're racing the other drivers. I think anybody that's really able to just keep a calm nerve, put some pressure to the driver in front, and force an error, that's going to be your best way by.
Absolutely. And here's we take a look at some of our drivers out there now taking their qualifying laps. None of them have set a time yet. This is Mark Lacombe, who comes into this race leading the championship. And he's not got the biggest of margins, so he'll have to perform well today. In the meantime, they've also got guys like Chad Dick out there trying to see if he can maybe overtake Briggs as well. Scott Kessel, perhaps in with a shout. Here we've got Chad Dick on your screen in that number 930, and he's crossing the line, but looks like he's just starting that first flying lap. So as they come into Tarzan, he starts his way through. Now, this is the older course here, Rachel, and it's interesting to note, yes, it's returned to F1, but back when it saw its first stint with F1, it certainly did not look like this first part of the track.
No, it certainly didn't, and this track has a storied history with F1 dating back many, many years to the dawn of the sport, and it certainly makes things incredibly interesting to come to such a storied location here for this racing. And I will say that until they made the changes very recently, this was also one of those really difficult tracks to get to as a spectator and as the teams as well, because everyone's staying in the local town, not at the track, and the roads to this circuit were insufficient, is the best way to describe them. Like one road in and out. It's tricky. But either way, these guys are up for a really, really roller coaster ride here. We're seeing the splitter cam here on Kessel's car, as this will wind through the Dutch sand dunes in phenomenal fashion, giving us a absolute nail-biter of a race. If we get side by side on this track, it is going to be explosive.
Remember, I mentioned Thomas Briggs potentially trying to see what he can do about taking the championship. Well, we have a very quick answer. No, he won't be able to, because unfortunately, he fell afoul of iRacing's qualifying scrutiny rules and has been disqualified. So he will not be allowed to take part. And we'll see whether or not the others can avoid that in these last couple laps. Ooh, and Chad Dick just went by and took the provisional pole with his 38.6. Komatz is behind by about 1/10 of a second, and he just crossed the line. Looks like he doesn't improve. Mark Lacombe also managed to go up to third place with that most recent lap. And this qualifying is probably going to be a pretty big talking point here, DJ. You discussed how difficult it is to pass. So I got to think from the get-go, track position will be key.
Yeah, track position is going to be king around here. None of those overtaking aids like the banks corners that we see in the modern version of this circuit here on the older iRacing scans. So it's really, really important to make sure your car is in front. I would also check out some alternate pit strategies today, that may be a way to try to jump a rival ahead of you, as being alone in clean air, that is going to be a massive, massive boon to your overall speed.
I'm glad you brought up the pits as well, because Rachel, the pits here, at least in this iRacing version, are kind of interesting on their own. Both the entry and exit have kind of their own perils to them.
Oh, absolutely. The exit is, we see that the entrance is go past Minawata here, but we're hopefully going to look at pit road itself in a moment. You're coming right out into traffic as they're braking there on the exit, as you just saw. But the entry has a pretty decent chicane in there too. That's the exit there, right out into traffic, and you can just see the distance. A massive chicane on the pit road entry to slow people down from a whopping straight they'll be coming in off. So this could get interesting.
Hopefully we won't have anybody fall victim to that chicane, because it's pretty much just one car's width across, so you can't exactly make mistakes and push it too hard. Chad's final lap, no, that was the second lap. Oh, and he does improve. 38.5. He's now almost 2/10 ahead of Komatz, who's also crossing the line and does not go faster, as Mark Lacombe abandoned his final lap. Oh, so interesting stuff here, DJ. And it looks like Scott Kessel, one of the few others that could maybe challenge here at the very end.
Yeah, but Kessel just had a very, very squirrely run going down into Hans Ernst, locking up the brakes. He may have even run a little bit off track there, so that may scupper any good attempts he has to improve on that 39.1 he set the last time out, and that's not going to help him as well, running a little bit wide out of Kumho.
Yeah, so the 48 off of the last corner, not expecting much out of this one. It does look like he is slow on this last sector. And indeed, 39.7 is more than half a second off of his best time. So let's see. It looks like Iwata and Chad Dick are the only other two that can complete laps. Now, we know that Dick has a provisional pole. Iwata's down in 13, so we could effectively call Chad Dick our pole sitter here, as Stacy crosses the line, and he does go quicker. 40.6 is a big improvement. That'll be up to 11th for the number 6 car. So just got to wait for Chad Dick to see if he's going to basically twist the knife here on the rest of the field, Rachel, and just put even more distance between himself and the others.
Yeah, 2/10 is a huge gap at a track like this, but it's a very technical track that will allow people to do exactly this. So we could really see a runaway, but hopefully it's not. 19 cars in this field. Our 1 second bracket right now goes half the field. Actually, no, less than half the field. It's 6 cars. Sorry, I miscounted there. 6 cars. That is John Gibson with a 39.5, but the Chad Dick's 38.5. So we will see a fair spread, which means traffic could be a big problem with how tight this circuit is.
Yeah, it's not easy to try and find your way past people unless they're very kind to you. But that means our results are in for the qualifying. And as we mentioned, Chad Dick is starting from the pole today. Steve Komatz will be beginning next to him on the front row, as Mark Lacombe starts from third, seeing if he can wrap things up from there. Scott Kessel will be P4 and Mike Sachs 5th. After that, John Gibson P6. You've got Jason Sherwood, first one outside of a second on the qualifying, starting 7th. It's David Purdy in 8th, and then row 5, it's Jeff Lashway and Chad Casey on.
In 11th, it's going to be Stacey Iwata, followed by Robert Benson with Randy Lervold and Stefan Uriadka there in 14th. Johan Nye will be 15th with DJ Sell and Jeremy Lawrence, the last driver to set a time. Thomas Briggs will be starting off in 18th. Keep an eye on that number 4 machine, and Jack Stevenson in the 116 will round out the rest of your field.
Now, I don't want to try and scare anybody on this one, Rachel, but I did bring it up a little bit before we came live here. Since we did have some caution flags early in the season due to some sloppy starts, I'm kind of concerned about this first lap coming down into Hugenholtz.
Yes, that could be a huge problem here. This first sector is incredibly tight, and tight track, and as you see it here as we're rising with the camera, it's twisty, it's tight, it's narrow, there's not a lot of runoff in the early part until we get all the way to this big 180-degree corner just in the foreground. This first corner here is banked, but it's also a choke point, so this could really become interesting. So we'll have to see these guys try and put some patience in.
And they have been pretty good, honestly, in the more recent rounds. It's not been, I think, since race 1 and race 2, we've had to see another caution thrown. So pretty much everybody's been on great behavior. Let's try and continue that here for the last hurrah of the season, as we're just waiting on Chad Dick, our pole sitter, DJ Sell, and I think, no, it looks like we might have Jack Stevenson out there. Nope, no, he is not out there yet. But drivers just about gridded up. There is our pole sitter, Chad Dick. So Stevenson now, and Stevenson's not going to be able to grid up as he is not in the sim. So it looks like they're all starting to rev their engines as everyone is ready to go. And the green flag is out. Komatz is very bad off the line. Lacombe is quick next to him. He's going to try and see if he can sneak up the outside, as behind them Scott Kessel fends off Mike Sachs down into the first corner. Lacombe trying to use that banking. Can he make it stick? Oh, it just about does. Great speed off the corner. Still fighting side by side for P2. Looks like everybody behind them managed to make it through, but Komatz wins out in the end, DJ.
And as they break down into Hugenholtz here, everybody getting down to single file. A little bit of double wide there in the back. That's Iwata and Uriadka there as they go down through that banked left-hander, but everybody through nice and clean.
Wow, Chad Dick is making really good on that pace early, 1.1 seconds ahead by the time they get to Sheavelock. Down into that banked downhill sweeper they go. And a little bit of fights towards the back, but everybody's already single file. And this is where it starts to get extremely technical here in this newer edition, Rachel.
Yeah, it really is. And this is the part of the track where they'll really have to pay attention, get those good speeds set up. And a couple of these corners you will want to compromise a little to get that good run. There's a couple of streets here, especially down in towards the Audi section, where you'll really want to be on top of things.
And apologies, Briggs was allowed to grid up. He was only disqualified from the qualifying itself. He's actually up to 11th already after starting this thing in 18th. Phenomenal stuff there from the number 4. But he's got a ways to go, and it's going to be harder to make passes the higher up the grid he rises, DJ.
Yes, it is. That's kind of the problem we see all the time as things start to develop. But drivers who continue to be at the front here, pushing along. Mark Lacombe really trying to apply that pressure to Steve Komatz as they cross the start-finish line.
He's within about 0.4 of a second, but that's not nearly close enough here. And you can see as they break into Tarzan, he can't even really try and have an attack on him. A little bit wider off the corner than Komatz, just using that extra little bit of pavement, banking up to the curb. Then the next big banked zone here into Hugenholtz, which had a big difference in its remake and its revamp here at Zandvoort, back through Hoensrug, and they fly through Slotemacher. Ooh, Purdy seems to have had an issue. Purdy in the 010 is off the track here, Rachel.
Yes, he is. Unfortunately, Purdy not having the day he would have liked. It was a little bit earlier on in the lap there. Has lost the hood of that car, and it was a solo moment. He just lost the back end coming out of the corner, didn't have the traction, and round he went and hit the guardrail.
We've headed over to Mike Sachs in the 599. Another spin. That is going to be Komatz. Lacombe gets promoted up into second, and I don't believe there was any contact on this one. So the 210 car has only himself to blame, DJ.
Indeed, I was watching it there live, Joe. Same problem that we saw with Purdy, just a little bit too much speed coming off the corner. I think just caught it a little bit wrong. Here we can watch it. He brings it down into that right-hander. A little bit of the curbing, gets onto the power a little bit too hard, and that just spins the rear tires, as these Porsches are prone to do sometimes.
Yeah, extremely defensive into that first hairpin. Not sure why. Didn't seem like he was that slow coming off the turn, but whatever the case, it put him where he is right now, which, as you could see there, was around nobody in 17th. Back to Briggs, who is on the back of Sherwood. And Sherwood does not defend. Thomas sends it up the inside, down into Tarzan. Both of them going a little bit deep, cutting back. Looks like Jason wanted to try and use that to re-overtake, but it doesn't work, Rachel. So now Briggs up to 7th spot.
Yeah, he's working his way forwards here in absolutely cracking style from the no qualify to inside the top 10, working forwards, and the gaps aren't huge right now, so he has potential to go all the way here. He was a contender. He wants to stay in contention.
Absolutely, and yeah, his lap times, actually his best lap time in this race is already faster than Chad Dick's best lap time. So you're right, he might actually still be a part of this run for the victory, depending on how the rest of this goes. Let's see, how far is he behind the leader? 6 seconds, that's not impossible. But we're watching Chad Dick in the 930 as he works his way down towards the Hans Ernst chicane. It's about 1.6 seconds down to Lacombe. Unfortunately for Chad, I do not believe, no, this finishing order between himself and Mark will not allow him to overtake in points.
It will not, Joe. The other thing he's got to worry about is he looked a little bit scruffy on that past lap. It was a 139.8, and Lacombe was able to run a 139.6, so certainly able to close down behind. Now, the one-lap pace here from Chad Dick, that is not in question, but we've got to keep an eye if he's able to keep it up over the course of this 40-minute race distance.
Yeah, that's true. It's not just one lap. It is how you string them all together. Meanwhile, Casion just got overtaken there by that yellow and black car in front of him. That's Briggs, another one down, and Gibson is in front. And this is going to be a very tough place to try and make this overtake. He's already looking back and forth, and well, that'll do it as Gibson goes completely off, but then slides back onto the track, and he sends him upside down. Oh my goodness. Briggs' hard work has all been undone in a flash.
Oh gosh, that's horrible to see. We need to watch that one back here. I've got a replay for you now. As car on the inside. Oh man. Can't stop on the grass, and they were out of control. A passenger. Oh my gosh, you'll see it here on board with Sherwood from Diablo region there, P6. As you see there on the inside, just bam, nothing he can do. Oh, that is a tragic incident.
Well, it was a good job by Sherwood tippy-toeing through that mess as well. He just about got collected himself. Yeah, there was an apology over the radio from Gibson after that. Once he slid out onto the green stuff, there was just no stopping it in time. Trying to get woed up, sliding across through Hugenholtz. As we come to Benson here in 9th, he is working on catching up to Stacy Awada, about half a second between them, and equally distant back behind him, it looks like, to Uriatka, DJ.
Yeah, Uriatka doing a good job to charge here, taking a little bit of an advantage of some of the misfortune of others. He's up 4 on the day. The Upper Canada region driver really putting in a good time, and this is where that rhythm that we talked about is going to come into play. You do not want to push too hard as the attacking car, as it's so easy to run a little bit wide. That's what we saw there from Gibson going down into Hugenholtz. You've got to be careful. Little bit of a look here from Uriatka, and the lock up in front. That's exactly what he wanted to try to elicit by that move.
I was going to say he was way far behind. There's no way he was going to make that move, but certainly scared the 71. Certainly won't do it here as he's not able to attack down into Hugenholtz. Further bad news for John Gibson fans. He's been given a black flag for that unsafe re-entry off of Hugenholtz there. So continue to watch the battle for 9th on your screen. Uriatka follows Benson down through Sheavlock here, Rachel.
Goes for it indeed, as we'll see if Briggs can actually recover something from that. It's going to be a tough one considering damage, but running through No real closeness between these two. The gap is pretty wide. I think it's pretty constant, so the positionings are going to be decent for now, as these guys, about 2 seconds between them at the moment, which is going to be useful. Iwata on board here in P8 right now. The 6th car up 3 spots since the start of this race. The Canada West region driver here into the Audi S.
Ooh, and there's been another black flag, this one for Purdy, for also an unsafe re-entry. He apparently slid back onto the track, or steered it back onto the track, ironically, in front of John Gibson, and ended both David and John's races. So I guess John suffered the other end of those unsafe re-entries right there. So if you believe in karma, there's a good case for it. Meanwhile, Iwata, who we saw is still holding on to 8th position as Mark Lacombe, is in 2nd and has cut it down to 9/10 of a second. It was at 1.6 a little bit earlier, DJ. This does not bode well for Chad.
No, it certainly does not. And Mark Lacombe here able to bring that gap down by about a half a tenth each lap on these successive laps. He's really driving well and pushing that car along. Chad Tick just looking a little bit inconsistent in the way that he is running these laps. He's a little bit all over the place, not putting down the most consistent of times, and that's really coming back to bite him here.
Oh, I just realized that Thomas Briggs is still out there racing, and I checked to see if he's been in pit lane, and he has not. So despite being on its lid at one point, the 4 car is still rolling. Now, the unfortunate news is he does have a black and orange flag, so he is going to have to come in and pit soon. In fact, I think if he continues on this lap, he's going to get DQ'd. So hopefully he is aware that he needs to be pitting in a second. This is Jason Sherwood, who's had plenty of adventure up to this stage. That's Casey on just in front of him, coming out of Hans Ernst. Oh, but that's a bad exit right there for the 12 car, Rachel.
Yeah, not the best he could have hoped for. Unfortunately, rough setup to the corner, which really leaves him low on time here through this final sector, and these guys will really push this one in. And a big final corner, huge run possible there. A great drafting opportunity up to this first corner, and you can actually pass around the outside actually in turn 1. That is possible.
Yeah, I've seen it done before, but yeah, he's not close enough to try it right here. Ooh, Thomas Briggs is going by the pits once again. That's 3 laps. So I think that's it. Since the timing line is before the pit entry, I think even if he does pit in this next time, that's going to just send him off the circuit immediately. He will disappear. Let's continue to watch this fight between Sherwood and Casey on, because Jason may have been bad down in Hans Ernst, but since then the car is looking strong, DJ. Let's see how he handles through Shevelock.
Well, it looks like he's got it woed up pretty well as they come through the right-hander there down into the heavy braking zone of Masters. Little bit of a sharper turn-in point there for Chad Casey. He's able to get the car rotated at the apex a little bit better and get a better jump off of the line as they go. But there you can see again Sherwood being able to close back down a little bit more in that number 12, losing a little bit. I think he may have spun the rear tires just slightly there off of turn 10.
He is threatening, and the entry to the corner that plagued him last time, is this one going to be better? He's much tighter down to the bottom, but once again, just doesn't seem to have the exit. He sends it shallow through that second part. Well, he'll carry on, but that one corner seems to be costing him each and every lap. It was down to 0.6 of a second. It's up to 0.7, 0.8 almost. So Lacombe maybe having a bit of troubles himself in that number 19. Not sure if he's also got a similar situation where he's strong in some parts and not strong in others. And I see Briggs heading towards the pits. I'm watching to see if he is going to be able to take this stop or if he's going to be sent out. No, it looks like I was wrong. So Thomas Briggs has thankfully managed to hit his pit stall in time before he is actually officially taken out of this race. Glad to see him able to carry on because he's had such good pace during this thing. So 0.8 of a second here between P1 and P2. And importantly for them, DJ, it looks like they're about 2 or some seconds away from Scott Kessel, so they're distancing themselves from the rest of the field.
Yeah, they definitely are here, and Kessel running about 2 to 3 seconds, 2 to 3 tenths of a second a lap slower than these two. So that's going to be good news, especially for Mark Lacombe. That means he's not going to have to worry about attack from behind, and he's able to put everything he's got into trying to overtake Chad Dick here.
Oh, we've had some contact between Casey-on and Sherwood. That sent Casey-on around. Jason's back up into fifth. I think it might have been actually a little bit of net code contact between them, unfortunately. But it certainly will be little consolation for that bright green machine. But this bright blue and yellow car of Chad Dick is back up once again. He's turned the afterburners on. He's now starting to put distance between himself and Lacombe. That, to me, says that maybe Chad, Rachel, had a little bit left in reserve and was kind of managing himself.
I think with a track like this, you want to have a little bit left of the tank in case you need to push, because it's a difficult track to defend on in places, but it's also easy. That seems contradictory, but there are one or two places where you really can't fight, like the front straight and the first corner, but a lot of this track is really easy to defend, so you don't want them trying to make a move, because if they do, nowhere to go, you're going to end up in serious trouble. So you do want to keep a gap, but you also don't need a huge gap is the thing. Just maintain something reasonable, a second, 2 seconds, and you're in a good spot here, because if you need to make a sprint for it, you can.
All right, so as the drivers continue on, we are just about at the halfway point, and I see a few drivers in pit lane, but that is not for scheduled service. We had a black flag for Sherwood due to the incident that I was reporting on earlier, and DJ Sell had one, and I'm not sure what that was for quite exactly. Must have been incident limits or something, as one car returning. Looks like Sherwood getting back out on the track. Will anybody else follow them in is the question, as we ride on board on the plunge down into Hans Ernst. This is Uriadka. Oh, what a big mistake from Casey-on in front of him. He's going to be able to return to the track relatively safely, but he loses 2 spots. Lervold and Uriadka DJ are quickly by.
Yeah, and that's going to be Steve Komatz now that is going to be looking to try to make a little bit of contact there, unfortunately, between himself and that lime green machine.
Oh, well, it's been a bad couple corners there for our driver in that lime green car, the 379 of Casey-on, now down into 11th. Earlier, he was all the way up looking at maybe a top 5.
Yeah, things were looking so strong for him, but Casey-on's really not had a good day. It's been just worse to worse to worse for him. Really, unfortunately, he's had a good season, so this is a bad place to really end this in.
All right. It started pretty clean, relatively clean, I have to say, and then suddenly we've seen little struggles here and there, little sloppy bits of racing from some drivers, but others, DJ, have been doing quite good at keeping it on the track, keeping it pointed forward, and I don't know, we heard talk about that not long ago here in the commentary booth about it's going to be simply about keeping it on the island.
Yeah, keeping it on the black stuff here, that is what you got to do. And these two leaders here, Dick and Lacombe, doing a great job of doing so. About a 3-second gap now built up back behind them to Scott Kessel. That's exactly going to be the music that Lacombe wants to hear as we continue to watch them work their way around. Chad Dick continuing to be a little inconsistent with his lap times. Over the past 5 laps, I'm seeing a 39.5, a 39.6, a 39 flat, 39.7. It's a little all over the place there, so that's going to be good news for Mark Lacombe.
So he's probably banking a little bit on that, I'm sure. Could also be thinking about those pit stops, wondering if I stay within range, because, I mean, this 1 second range is right about where, Rachel, I got to think he's got a shot at it, because we can see pit stops vary, 3 to 4 seconds difference between these cars?
Yeah, easily, which could make a big difference, of course. And I think also that's why Mr. Briggs waited so long, by the way. I think he was trying to nudge his way into the very, very, very start of the pit window.
That's a good point. And if that's the case, that actually is quite clever of him. We'll see if he can get to the end. It was 3 laps ago. Yeah, that actually might do it. He's got plenty of zones where he can lift and coast into corners too, so maybe that'll help him as well. As we continue to watch, and Lacombe is the closest we've seen him since the start of the race, down to 0.5 of a second briefly as we now ride on board, looking from the rear bumper from the 930.
Yeah, and it looks like through the first couple of sectors there, it was able to be very good, but Lacombe running a little bit wide going through Kumho, and that's going to slow down some time. You need to be able to carry as much momentum as possible down through these final two corners, Joe, and I think he just lost out a little bit there, the 19, poking his nose out of the draft there a little bit puzzling as he is within that second range. That is the draft range.
Oh, but it did get Chad Dick to break kind of deep into the corner, and he's going to lose that time right back. It's down to 0.6 once again. So that's twice now we've seen drivers just show themselves coming up towards Tarzan and just getting a little bit of a hiccup out of the car ahead as we once again look from the dash of Mark Lacombe. A lot of winding road here as it weaves over the hills at this track. That's one thing I do love about this circuit, how it uses the natural terrain and makes it just feel not only very scenic, but exciting to race from within the car. And then into the newer portion through Masters, things slow down from here and do back-to-back hairpins. First off to the right, little puff of smoke as well from Chad Dick. So that's twice now in one lap. I wonder if he is feeling a bit of the pressure, Rachel.
I think he could be. Maybe this is not him keeping something in the tank. Maybe this is the full tank. And it's sloshing a little bit, I think, because Mark Lacombe is staying with him so close.
It's down to 0.3 of a second into the braking of Hans Ernst this time. So this is a very good lap, that or a very bad lap for Chad Dick. And the good lap for Lacombe could get him within that slipstream down the front stretch. Nah, he's starting to fall away down through Lyondike yet again, and onto the main straight they go. He is too far away. He's got to master those last couple corners, DJ, I think, if he wants this one. It really looks to me like Tarzan's his best bet.
Yeah, it really does. That looks like where he is struggling the most, down through Kumho and Ari Lyondike. But Tarzan's going to be his primary overtaking opportunity. We could see a little bit of aggression later in the race, as I said, going into Hans Ernst. But I wouldn't really advise against that unless he does, unless we're talking about the final 5 minutes or so of the race, and you are close enough to be able to send a high percentage move down into those corners.
So, amazingly, having stopped in, I think because of his spare car waiting in the wings, Thomas Briggs has actually done pretty well to stay on the lead lap, and he's in 11th. And if, as Rachel said, he was able to pit within the fuel window, he might be able to get to the finish from here. It'll all depend on what he can do with his pace. Ooh, and once again, this is getting mighty close here between P1 and P2, down to 0.6 as they come out of the second of the hairpins, starting to try to get onto the throttle. But he struggles, the 19 car, losing traction there off of that left-hander. And hopping on board, we head to Lervold here, Rachel, in the number 3. This is with Uriatka. And it seems like Stefan has just had constant battles happening in this race every time we look at him, whether it's ahead or behind him.
Yeah, it really has. And it's been incredibly busy around this part of the field, as these guys are really putting on the, like you mentioned, it's been kind of what cars tend to do this at this track, Zandvoort. You tend to get either people running away at the front, or you get these knots of cars. And you'll see this throughout our field here. There's a couple of groups, including the likes of Casey and Briggs now, who are together. Then we've got, of course, Lervold, Radaka, Benson up here. Then we, of course, look further forward. We've got the guys like Iwato Lashway. So looking at Sachs here in the 4th spot, he's up there with Kessel. And look at this. This is just a roller coaster of a racetrack here. Big braking into this 180-degree corner. A little bit of a tire chirp there by Kessel. And then make it out cleanly onto the newer part of the track. And it's just, it will group up these little knots of cars. And you'll have great racing amongst them, and then big gaps between the groups.
Coming over the crest as Mike continues to put the pressure on. Will he be able to get by Kessel there? These two not any sort of fight championship-wise. Not even close to one another in terms of points. So this is all down to pride. One last race. Who will wind up on the podium amongst them? Kicking up a little bit of dirt there for the 48 car as he runs it slightly wide off the first hairpin. And will he do the same here? Nope, that was nice and tidy, but Sachs was even stronger, remaining very close to him, almost as close as this one. Lacombe, once again, back down to 0.4 of a second. Now, DJ, he doesn't necessarily have to pass Chad Dick, but there's that tug of war. Does Mark want to end the season points racing for the championship, or does he want to try and overtake and end on the high?
Well, Joe, you tell a racer to try to not overtake. It's like telling water to try water not to be wet. It is very, very difficult when you're in that position. You're strapped into the cockpit to want to get the move on. It's going to require a lot of mental fortitude there, I think, for Mark Lacombe, not to try to push himself up forward a little bit. But we will have to see it. I think he's going to try to go for a high percentage move here. That is what the phrase that we need to focus on. He doesn't want to do anything that can scupper his race, but he's going to want to get by if he can.
Back to Saxon Kessel. Looks like for a brief moment, Mike was actually almost pushing Kessel through Tarzan. He was so close to that rear bumper. And Briggs, did he just get another spot? Yeah, looks like he just went by Casey on there. Oh, and Lervold didn't pass Oriadka. Looks like Stefan is in pit lane, and he has successfully, Rachel, gotten through that chicane.
Yeah, that's a sneaky little one. It's almost as bad as the Spa pit entry, which can be pretty wild on the GP layout, of course. But I'm bored to look at him here. And this is a threat for Dick. Look at the front of him there. You have to race around this track, which is not exactly one of the easiest. But Mark Lacombe in your rearview mirror, this close. And it is getting closer at various other times. But I think he's staying in that threat zone now where he could force a mistake. And Chad Dick's lap times have been inconsistent enough that we could see a mistake here from your leader.
Middle of the season was really the strong bit, the middle of the series rather, was the strong bit for Lacombe. With 3 straight wins, Winton, Summit Point, Suzuka, all back-to-back. But since then, he hasn't been on the top step of the podium. And I'm sure he'd like to do that again, especially here at the last chance of Series 8. As he continues to hound Chad Dick. That was a pretty good run. That was a better run than what we've seen previously, DJ, out of the final turn. Oh, and behind him, pass for third, almost. Sachs is working on it. He's got the inside, but the job is not done.
No, it's not. They're going to be side by side going down into the corner. Sachs trying to hold that out the best that he can, but Kessel trying to see if there's a little bit of overlap. He's going to have to back out of it for safety's sake, but I think this race for the final step of the podium is on.
So Sachs manages to get through. He is now into third position. Unfortunately, we have had our first official retiree from the race. DJ Sell is out of this one after his incident there on the front stretch some time ago. So now we watch from Kessel. The tables have turned, and he has got to be on the attack. Can he try and get this spot back, Rachel?
It's going to be exciting to see what he can do with this one can Kessel run? We'll have to find out if it's under 12 parsecs, because that would be the critical number, I think, to go for here. But he and Sachs have been pretty close on performance this season, so I'd like to see what they can do. At the same time, Max Sachs has been incredibly fast. We saw what they did with Chad Dick at Watkins Glen.
Well, I doubt a parsec is as long as the laps around here, but they are close to 12 minutes left, and you watch the 48 stay right there with him. He's not going to let Sachs go, at least this quickly. It could be a slow burn. It could be that Mike is just mildly faster and eventually shakes him. Let's see if either of them pit in this time, because it should be close to the end of the window. And no, both are going to stay out. Surprised Kessel didn't try to maybe take advantage of that. But we will head over to Benson now. Robert in 7th position, yet to take a pit stop. And he's got Stacy Iwata in front of him, just taking slightly different lines as they headed out of Hans Ernst. But here's that important last couple corners through Kumho and Lion Dyke onto the front stretch. DJ, who's got the legs?
Yeah, who's going to be able to get on that loud pedal? Looks like a little bit of a lean, though, and that's going to be coming down pit lane. We've got a couple of drivers peeling off.
And Komat's had another spin in the 210. Don't need to go to it. It was a self-spin coming out of Masters corner. Lost him, I think, a spot to Johan Nye in the meantime. Ooh, and Lacombe, man, he is filling up that windscreen with Chad Dick's rear bumper, trying his hardest to see if he can shake him out of that lead without risking his car too much to try and retain the championship here. Does not need to pass him to take the overall war, but he wants to win the battle. And behind them, let's see, who is that? That is Sherwood. So that's a lapped car, also causing himself to be a factor now, Rachel. If they find themselves with a slower car in front of them, could act as a pick.
Could be a huge and very useful pick. And let's pick more of a fire Halligan. Like, they will jam that thing in the door and prise the thing open in one go.
That was a very violent imagery there as we come down the front stretch. And not close enough this time. Sachs also holding off Kessel, still on this lap, but still only 0.3 of a second ahead, as Komats is now going to pit in, and he is just now coming back out. Johan Nye has taken his stop, and Chad Casion add him to the list as well. So up and over Hoensrug one more time, which literally translates to Hoens Ridge, as it was, I believe, named after a driver, either a driver or a motorcycle rider. I'd have to double check on that one. The 19 playing the Fox in this case, and the Rabbit being Chad Dick, trying to run away, hoping to get himself a victory here, as Chad did take a win back at Knock Hill, but that was his only victory in Series 8. So can he make it at least a twofer?
Well, he's going to hope to, Joe, but I think here, if I'm Mark Lacombe, I'm diving down pit lane this time. He is close enough. He's getting held up a little bit. That's going to be the highest percentage move. If he's able to come out, get some clean air, and be able to run, that is the good way to go. We've just had Stacey Owada come down pit lane, as well as Randy Lervold. So it's now only the top 6 that haven't come down pit lane. There should be a good enough gap here for Lacombe to come out into some clean air.
So down to 10 minutes left to go. Dick is heading in. Lacombe is going to follow. Oh, no! He juked him. He juked him and actually slowed up Mark Lacombe. It actually worked. I don't think I've ever actually seen that have that sort of effect before. Mark started braking for the pit entry, and Chad had not. So that gave him a good 1.2 seconds.
That is insane. That is some gamesmanship there. If I was wearing a hat, one second. Okay, I've got a hat now. I will take it off to Chad Dick for that move. That was good.
I thought you were going to say you were going to eat that hat for a second.
Oh, no, come on. I'm not hungry, but no. I went to go make my GoDaddy number 10 hat off the wall, put it on, then I took it off for Chad Dick.
Oh, wow. That is one of the most clever moves I've seen in quite some time here on iRacing, and I can't believe it actually worked. So we go back to Kessel on Mike Sachs, and that one has not suffered the same fate. Impressive, though. I'm just looking at the gap now. Lashway behind them is not stopped, and he is 31 seconds back from Kessel. Now, I think some of that is flattered by drivers who have pitted, because there was a mistake from Kessel there coming off of the left-hander, unfortunately. But wow, it's a huge separation here, DJ.
Yeah, it's a massive separation, and it goes to show you just what this track can extract from drivers. It is so exacting. Another driver to keep an eye on, by the way, Thomas Briggs here, all the way up into P6, and he has come down pit lane. So an absolutely remarkable drive for Briggs.
This time, there's no faking him out. It actually is a pit entry for Chad Dick. Lacombe follows also for real. Surprised. I really feel like Mark maybe should have just kept carrying on. Great entry from Kessel, who made up a ton of time there on pit entry. So he is going to find himself a little bit of margin cut down. Lashway is a ways until he gets there. He's going to the last one that needs to stop in that nice, beautiful green machine, as the Emerald number 16 finds his way to the pit entry, back out. Ooh, and Lacombe jumped him. Chad Dick has lost the lead.
Well, I guess that's payback for the stunt last time round. But Mark Lacombe, I think, is fired up here, and he is out for blood.
Yeah, it was much quicker, about just over a second faster for Mark, so he made that up quite well. Briggs, who is still out, we saw him on screen briefly, there he is in 5th place. And that is after Lashway has pitted, so that could be legitimate, but he pitted 12 laps ago. So can he make it these final, let's see, 4 or 5 laps here to try and get to the finish?
I think he just might be able to, Joe. And now the impetus here, though, as we ride on board with the 930 is going to come back to Chad Dick. Is he going to be able to keep up that pace now that he is the chaser instead of the chasee in this situation? A lot of drivers respond differently to different pressure on those times.
And it's not looking good. It's already about a second between Chad and Mark. If he continues to lose time, this might be exactly what Mark had been waiting for. Bit of a shame that incredible move on the pit lane kind of came to naught in the end. As we watch them. Oh, and somebody's off the course there. I think that was Sherwood?
I think it's Johan Nye.
Yeah, you're right. So Johan Nye falls down to 14th from that one. He's now a lap down because of that as well. Dick keeps it within that 1 second over the course of the lap, so he's matching Mark Lacombe's times. Matching's not going to get him a win, unfortunately. Mike Sachs stays ahead of Scott Kessel by about a second as well. So that's working out quite good for the 599. And for fans of Thomas Briggs, I'm not sure that he's got a good chance at a podium here, Rachel. I'm looking at the distance. It's 16.7 seconds up to just 4th place.
Unless there's an incident, I think 4th might be what he can do, but it has been a monumental 4th place. We can't forget that. From starting basically at the back because he couldn't qualify, disqualified from qualifying, of course, don't forget, for an iRacing related reason, probably incident points. Thomas Briggs, only 4th from the back, up the field. He then was on his roof, managed to make it to the pit window, driving with a damaged car, and is back out and back up to 4th. That is huge.
It's mighty impressive. Yeah, I love the never say die attitude, and the DQ in qualifying is, I believe, actually for the slowing too far down in the pre-qualifying lap. You have to match a certain amount of time in that warm-up lap, or else iRacing will consider you outside of the rules in which you're not allowed to go too slow to try and use a few hacks that they're trying to plug up here in the sim. But we're watching Lawrence with Oriadka right behind him and Randy Lervold back there in 10th. These three mighty close, DJ. One little slip up could give away a spot or two.
Well, and we've seen just how easy it is to make a slip up around here at Zandvoort today. Lervold, everybody taking different lines there into turn 10. I think that was a little bit of a defensive one there from Ariadka, just trying to hold off anything from behind that may compromise him here on the straight going down into Hans Ernst.
Yeah, Lawrence puts himself well out of arm's reach. Oriadka, is going to break quite deep comparatively to Lervold, so he also gets out of reach, and they all carry on in the same position as they were. Great exit by Lervold. Cuts it back down to about 0.3 of a second. He'll want this to be nice and tidy, coming off of Kumho and getting a better exit. It didn't use up much of the straight. Way wide there for Oriadka. Not sure what happened. He was nowhere near the racing line, Rachel, and Lervold's going to try and take advantage.
He is. Is a big dive to the outside for a look. No, not close enough for any kind of move here, but good setup to get a good run out of the first corner here, but he will still stay behind. This one's going to be heating up for the next lap.
Yeah, and they've got, let's see, where is our leader? Looks like, 2 laps to go. Next time by for them. Oh my goodness, getting all over the back of him. Oriadka is pressuring Lervold is pressuring Oriadka now. And, I just realized, Lawrence is on the same lap, so apologies on that. My mind has been so caught up in this being a fight, I had failed to check on that, so it is just a 2-car battle right now. And bad news for fans of Chad Dick. Lacombe has stretched it to about 2.2 seconds for the lead. So Chad has been unable to keep up with the 19.
Yeah, not really able to keep up that pace. Dick's pace just a little bit slower here after he's come out of pit lane. He's really only running 140s here. I'm getting the sense that he may have recognized that Lacombe has just got more pace and he has decided to back off and bring the car home safely.
Yeah, it certainly seems like that'd be a good bet on that one. Did Briggs just have a pit stop? I'm trying to see, because last lap looked very long for Thomas Briggs. It was a 150.1. Oh, he had an off. So not only is he now had disqualification in qualifying, wound up on his lid, and had to take a spare car, he's also sent it off into the barrier at Shevelock on a recent lap, and he's still holding on to a top 5. That tells you he probably could have dominated this race if it weren't for all the unfortunate circumstances. Instead, it looks like in the end it's going to be Mark Lacombe who dominates, but not until the final 10 minutes, Rachel.
It's been a topsy-turvy story, that is for sure. Briggs, the mighty speed from him and what could have been, I think, is probably the most exciting story in that. But I had to give it to Mark Lacombe. He raced a smart race here. Chad Dick got one over on him at one point, but I think Chad Dick was fighting an inevitable battle, because Mark has got the pace. Passing can be difficult, but he waited and he got it in the place where it's the safest, pit road.
Yeah, and Mark certainly got the last laugh in the end. As long as he brings it home, it's up to 2.6 seconds there. You see how far apart they are on screen between the pair of them. And Mike Sachs certainly not in the running to try and challenge on Chad Dick. He's another 5.7 seconds back, but he's got a handy podium finish for him. So just all, it's essentially all done bar the shouting at this point. The positions are pretty solidified, and as long as they don't make a really silly error, the drivers have themselves a good finish to Series 8. Lacombe off of the second left-hander, just a few more, and he will finish off on the high note that I was mentioning earlier. He did indeed make it a safe pass. He didn't have to pass him on the track. He did it in the pit lane. So well done to the 19 to out-strategize his rival at this race. The clock has hit 0, and Mark Lacombe comes out of Kumho and into Lyondike. It might be flatter than what it looks like in real life right now, but it is certainly not a flat day for Lacombe. It is an exciting run to a championship and, of course, a victory. Unofficially a championship for the 19 there, as Chad Dick is going to take second and Mike Sachs will finish third.
Behind them, they've got to wait another about 6 seconds for Scott Kessel to be able to cross over the line to take P4. Thomas Briggs looking like he is going to be en route to be able to take a top 5 there. We jump back to Robert Benson, and this is a nice little battle with Stacey Owada in the last couple of corners. Yeah,
this is to decide 7th position, and we've got 2 battles for spots here on the lead lap. In fact, it's, I think, the last 2, most of the last couple spots here on the lead lap. So we'll wait for them to try and cross, and I think Owada has this one under control. He's got Lashway in front of him, but Lashway also making sure that he is out of reach as long as they don't sputter to the line. And indeed, that Emerald number 16 is going to take 6, Owada 7th, Benson 8th, and Oriadka with Lervold actually very close behind him here, DJ.
Yeah, very close indeed. Lervold trying to put a little bit of pressure here. Is that going to be enough? I don't think Lervold's going to be able to get the move done. Oh, if he had one more lap, baby.
Yep, just not enough. But that will finish our drivers out and take us to the race results here today. Mark Lacombe started from 3rd, had a great start, raced Chad Dick all the way through, and outsmarted him with a victory here today. Chad Dick was 2nd after he had one of the most interesting shake and bakes we've ever seen but he still had to settle for second. And Mike Sachs was third, up from fifth. Scott Kessel wound up where he started, from fourth, as Thomas Briggs, DQ'd in qualifying, climbed his way through the field, came back after he was on his lid, and finished in fifth. Jeff Lashway was behind him in sixth spot. Stacy Iwata, P7. You've got Robert Benson in eighth position with Uriadka, P9. And 10th place will go to Randy Lervold.
In 11th, it was Jason Sherwood, the last driver to finish on the lead lap, followed by Steve Komatz with Chad Kasian and Johan Nye behind them. Jeremy Lawrence was 15th with David Purdy 2 laps down and John Gibson 3 laps down. DJ Sell and Jack Stevenson's both DNFs here on the day.
And that is going to take us to a chat with Mark Lacombe, who, as I said, took the win, and unofficially we believe he's got enough points for the championship, but we probably won't be getting confirmation on that until much later. In the meantime, Mark, I have to talk to you about the moment that has entranced us, the pit entry that didn't happen. What was the reaction in the cockpit when you saw Chad carrying on?
Yeah, that'll trickster Chad. Thanks, Joe. And yeah, I was kind of watching out for that, but he still caught me off guard. I just didn't want to go off strategy from Chad, and so I stayed out. But I managed to pull back a little bit of gap on that in lap, so it worked out good.
Well, and I said I was kind of surprised you didn't just like carry on into pit lane and kind of suck it up, because you lost some time actually braking for the pit entry. Were you just that confident in your pace? Because you did look incredibly strong today.
Well, I knew I'd lost some time, but I thought, well, all right, I didn't really need to beat Chad. I wanted to just stay with him. So that was my goal. And then I had saved so much fuel during that first stint that I was able to get out ahead of him. And I just kept going from there.
What is that like coming into the last round, knowing you're leading the points, you have that advantage, and yet you've got an opportunity to finish off with a win, but you have to race the other guy for it? I mean, what's the mental battle like inside your head, trying to weigh the risk versus the reward?
Yeah, well, that was the huge part. You know, you don't want to make a mistake, but I've raced Chad enough this season that I trust him probably more than any of the other drivers in this group. So I knew we could stay together that whole race and not have a problem.
And that's the way it wound up. Both of you clean to the finish. Congratulations on, I believe, the 4th win of Series 8. Anybody you want to thank?
Yeah, I want to thank you guys, Podium. You've done a great job all season broadcasting our races. It's a lot of fun. Of course, Doug and PCA Sim Racing putting this all together. It's a lot of work, I know. My Matrix teammates, again, they came through, helped me practice for Zandvoort, and really got my act together for this last race. My sponsor, Ford All Motorsports, and my wife, Debbie.
That great stuff there from the winner today, Mark Lacombe, in the number 19, who's going to be followed by Chad Dick in second, as DJ has caught up with him.
I have indeed, Chad. I'm going to ask you the same thing that Joe asked your competitor there. You got to talk me through that fake out going down pit lane.
Yeah, Mark and I had a lot of practice together this week, and we talked a lot about pit strategy. We both knew it was a difficult pit entry, so part of it was me just practicing for the next lap when I knew I was going to enter. I wanted to make sure I came in with the right line. Part of it was my fuel I didn't use my fuel the way that I thought I would calculated. And so I ended up with an extra lap of fuel, and I was like, I'm going to go for it, which was great because I caught some time up there, but I gave it right back to when I went back into the pits because I was sputtering to my pit spot. So I lost a lot of time going in and getting to my pit stop. So it kind of backfired on me.
Gotcha. We wondered why you'd lost a little bit of time there. I mean, if that hadn't happened, you look like you had a little bit of the pace to be able to keep him behind you for most of the day. Did you think you could have maybe pulled it out if you hadn't sputtered to the line there?
Yeah, again, I mean, Mark and I had some fantastic practice. I think we probably had 4 practice sessions this week where we were going head to head for almost the entire feature race. And sometimes he was leading, sometimes I was leading. And I think we both knew we had pretty comparable pace. So I wasn't too worried about, him catching up and overtaking. It was more anticipating a battle at some point in time, which is, again, why I tried that pump fake, because I just wanted to put a little gap between us.
Well, I mean, it's a good season on the whole, and I have to ask you, how much was that kind of factoring into your logic here today and trying to keep everything behind you, not wanting to run off? Were you running for the single race, or were you running with the championship in mind?
Well, honestly, I was running for the championship until I had that off track. I had to have a 0x P1 win to have any chance of beating Mark, but he would have had to finish, I think, in P6 or lower. And so the fact that he was right behind me and I made that 1x, I kind of at that point resigned to just run the best race I could. I think I was still in the lead at that point in time, up until the pit strategy. And then when I fell back into 2, I was like, you know what, this doesn't make any difference in my overall season standing. So I'm happy to take the P2. I'm most proud that I think out of all the races in Series 8, I never finished worse than P5, which is like way beyond anything I could have anticipated this season. So I don't like to have expectations, but I sort of feel like I have to say this season has absolutely exceeded, anything beyond my wildest dreams.
Well, it certainly has exceeded ours, and I've got to give you a massive congratulations on a great run through the season. Anybody you would like to thank?
Well, let's start right at the top. I mean, steering committee, race control, none of this would be possible without their organization and their oversight. You guys, I absolutely love your broadcasts. It's been a pleasure to have the privilege to talk to you after the races. And then, of course, my Zone 1 teammates who have been there to help push me during practices. It's the same group of people that I've been learning from. So Chris Braun, Chris Pais, Nikki Chan, Joe Stifle, a whole bunch of guys on track. I mean, I could sit here and, pull the Oscars routine. You guys would play me off. So this is just a great, great, great group of people. And I really enjoy practicing and getting out on track and racing with everybody. I think, the league mission of camaraderie, sportsmanship, and competition, those ideas are very well at play, at least in this class of the league.
Well, we want to thank you for putting on such a great show for us the entire year, Chad, and congratulations once again.
I appreciate it. Thank you, guys.
All right, that was Chad Dick, your second place finisher here today. And Rachel, I believe you've caught up with Mike Sachs.
I have indeed, Mike. A very busy end to the race for you, especially fighting with Scott Kessel all night long. Just tell me a little bit about this season for you as well as this race. Mike, do we have you? I think we might be having a bit of a problem with Mike Sachs.
I think, it looks like he might be muted.
Oh, there I am.
There we go.
Hey, Rachel.
Hi, did you hear my question?
If you wouldn't mind repeating it.
I would. The
That's
fans
my
are
fan
happy, I
club.
see.
That's my girlfriend. I'm going to thank her.
Okay, well, you can do that at the end.
I will.
First, tell me about this race and this season as a whole.
Rachel, I have to be honest. I haven't spoken to you in a while. I think the last time that you and I had a conversation was at Watkins Glen, I believe the first race of the season. And this season, and I got to thank all of you guys on the podium because you guys do such a fantastic job. The season's been a roller coaster ride for all of us, very enjoyable. And, it's a sport that we can all just jump in and have a good time doing. As far as the question, racing with Scott tonight was, I didn't really want to get too close to him because I know that he was vying for a championship, hoping to get a podium finish and trying to, get himself on top of the podium as long as he stayed ahead of certain people. And, he had a couple of mistakes, which I didn't want to capitalize on, but one of them was just I couldn't slow down enough. I had to go around him. And for that, Scott, I apologize, but very, very fun, very clean racing.
It certainly seemed that way, and good to be back on the podium, of course, after quite a few races where you weren't there.
That's true. Well, like I said, it's been a roller coaster for me.
Well, it certainly has. Well, you kind of wanted to go to this part at the start of the interview, but give me anybody you'd like to give a shout out to or thank for this race and this season.
Well, I want to thank my teams and my girlfriend, my parents, and the thousands of fans they've created down in Florida. They are back here in New York. They couldn't be with me here tonight due to circumstances, but I want to thank you guys who do a fantastic job. My kids who put up with me yelling and screaming on the VR because I make mistakes to myself, and it's a lot of fun doing sponsors did a terrific job hosting all of the sessions. What more can I say? I'm looking forward to the fall session.
And we are also looking forward to watching it. Well, very much. Thank you, Mike Sachs, for tonight. Congratulations on third place, and hopefully see you next season.
I'm looking forward to it, Rachel. I look forward to speaking with you more frequently.
Well, back to you guys.
That's you got your own fan club there, Rachel.
I do, yeah.
Well, we're gonna let them fan out here for a bit while we take a quick break. We'll come back with the sport class here in PCA Sim Racing Series 8 here at Zandvoort. Stick around. Welcome back to Zandvoort. We are getting ready for the sport class here in PCA Sim Racing, and our drivers are eager and ready to get this one underway. They are in qualifying right now, and many of them have already taken some laps, but we still have a few that are left to go. And I have to say, DJ, it was fascinating to see how that race unfolded, because we expected it to be difficult to pass, but it looked like there's some interesting ways that you can get around one another, and interesting ways you can race as well in your VR headset, it looks like, for Millerano.
Yeah, he's got a little bit of a new way to do it. Remember, he had that similar view last time around. This time, a little bit of Knight Rider coming at us. But yeah, there's plenty of different lines you can take around here, Joe. Plenty of different opportunities to try to get that overtake done. But I think we're going to see the same story that we saw last time. Track position going to be king. Going to be very, very difficult to get a pass done around here.
Coming down across the line there, Millerano on his third lap, not able to have that one count. He had an off track somewhere, and that set him out. And it looks like that might be our last driver able to set a time. Indeed, it is. Our grid is set here today. A little bit of a larger field, too. And it's Christopher Cook, who's starting on the pole with Enrico Gregorato, who is in second. James Franznick will be P3 and Anthony Solero in fourth. After that, Kim Fricke starts fifth, Will Kelly in sixth, and David Kaufman on the inside of the next row at Patrick Adamczyk. On the outside of him, Jake Geiger starts ninth, and Trip Starkey will be 10th. DJ?
In 11th, it's going to be Adam Spence, followed by Greg Sampson with Peter Yersa and Chris Pippen behind them. Carl Boccieri will be 15th, followed by Nick Millerano with Adam Gerling, Jeff Williams, Robert Walton, and Antonio De Silva, rounding out your top 20.
21st is Gregory Gorel with David Kretzler in 22nd, Sebastiano Ballestieri. 23rd, Joseph Evers. 24th, Will Preston. 25th with Bob Moore. 26th. 27th is Ryan McGee with Randy Teague in 28th. Peter Kuma in 29th with David K. Palmer in 30th.
Will Mungia in 31st, followed by Ankerberg Zona in 32nd. Then it's Mark Frost and Tom Crane rounding out the field. Everybody has gotten at least one lap in here, so it looks like we will have everybody representative. Hopefully, we'll depend and see on whether or not they'll have trouble trying to get off the line as well, on whether or not we get charges through the field on this one. With more cars, having to fight your way past is certainly going to be a little bit more difficult. But they're gridding up now here in the early morning in the Netherlands, just off of the North Sea. You can see all the colorful cars eager to get going. We're waiting on Geiger and Yersa to grid up their cars, and we'll be on our way. Geiger is leading the championship. He's in ninth, a little bit far down for him. That actually might put him at threat on the championship points. We won't know officially until later, but it looks like everybody's out there. So the engines now start to rev as the lights come up for the finale, and the green flag is out. Looks like our leader's not so hot compared to Gregorato. To his inside already, and he might be able to take this one away, especially with the banking down into the corner, and he is fully ahead. Gregorato has gone from second to first.
And Franznick trying to do the same thing, trying to put Christopher Crook down into P3. A lot of too wide here coming down into Hugenholtz. Everybody going to have to be very, very careful as they work their way into the corner.
Oh, Fricke just edging out Franznick and taking that third place away. Franznick slow and loses yet another spot as Will Kelly sneaks through into fourth. So not the greatest of starts for Fricke, or for Franznick there. And already they are into Shevelock. I think the only problem we had was Sampson having a spin there during the start. Otherwise, everybody is on their way, Rachel.
Yeah, they absolutely are, and it's a good start by the field here. Everyone getting some good pressure onto the track here as we go through this first sector. And the field spreading out pretty quickly at the front. Cook and Gregorato making some gaps already. That could be a start of breakaway, but we're seeing a lot of tightness in the rest of this pack. Everyone really, really close.
Looks like in both cases, the drivers have paid close attention here about what to do at the starts and just keep the cars safe. See if anybody runs wide down into Hans Ernst. There's one going a little bit off and trying to come back on, trying to make out who that was. It looks like Will Kelly, and then Solero is going to try and capitalize on that, going side by side into Kumho. That makes them both slow off the corner, DJ.
Yes, it does, and that may open up the opportunity here for the Zebra machine of Patrick Adamczyk. He's going to see if he can have anything. Kelly trying to fight back there a little bit more, but I'm not seeing any movement.
He's going to look to the inside, and it's a little far back, I think. No, he's not going to be able to get Kelly into that one, so they'll all stay single file, and that really picked up pace very suddenly. Not too shocked at that. As we said, drivers will be eager to try and take advantage of anything that opens up a chance to pass. And look at how close they are here, Rachel. That is still Kelly being chased by Adamczyk.
Super aggressive, super early on here, giving us some exciting racing, but they're going to have to be cautious with how hard they push this one. Adamczyk here making a good run towards Kelly up ahead. Keeping his eye on the prize, just making sure he's got the good positioning right now. Wants to try and get these early laps out of the way. Let this field spread a little bit before we start seeing a lot of attacks. I think the time for quick lunges is over. Now it's time to make a strategy and stick with it.
Absolutely. Don't want to risk the car here as we follow with Fricky having a little bit of counter steering, but looking to attack on Cook for that second place. As Fricky's up 2 spots already in just these, in fact, before they even finished the first lap. And they're just about to finish the second one now, coming down out of Hans Ernst. Let's see who's good off of these last couple corners. Gregorado, who took over the lead before they reached the first corner. Oh, Krutzler's had a problem back in the back in the 74. I think he's going to be able to get going without hitting anybody.
Yeah, looks like a little bit of a lockup coming down into Hans Ernst there, Joe. A couple of drivers getting black flag for incidents. Looks like Teague and Yerxa, so that is some higher placed runners there. Fricky setting the fastest lap of the race on that last go-around, so definitely some speed there coming up from P3.
Peter's already down into pit lane. He started from 13th. This is going to put him behind a lot of cars here, so that'll make life a bit of a pain. Meanwhile, riding on board down through Hugenholtz as we follow this train that is currently behind our championship leader, Jake Geiger, only up 1 spot, and not sure if one of those was promoted by those black flags, but he's sitting in 8th. I'm not sure on the math on if that's going to do it for him championship-wise.
I don't know if it's going to be close enough. This one could come down to a drop week or decisions in terms of IRTs. It's too close to call on him, I think, unfortunately. It's going to be this grouping here, this sport class, I think has been one of our closer in terms of points. So just want to definitely keep your eyes on as we go forwards. But Cook and Gregorado already swapped positions at the front.
Yeah, I can say in terms of numbers, one thing is more certain is that it was around 150 points difference to the next car back on Geiger. So that's a pretty wide margin considering the max points you can get is 325. So it's I suspect he's going to have to be way far down the order. I'm double checking the point scoring sheet just to give us a range for him here of our 34 runners today. But Melorano, we ride on board with, currently sitting in 13th, is going to try and use his very smart car to try and chase down Kaufman, who is just about 3/10 up the road. The 808 is down 5 positions and obviously struggling a little bit.
Yeah, not exactly doing the best run there is Kaufman. I think he may have had a little bit put offline in that first lap, and that's what put him down. Melorano recognizing that and recognizing that when you get a little bit flustered in those opening laps, Joe, it can really affect your entire race. So Melorano just wants to push here. Doesn't quite look like he has the outright pace, though, coming down the backstretch.
So from what I can tell, and again, my math is always, don't count on it, but I believe 26th or 27th, or thereabouts or lower, will put Geiger in danger. But that is only if we see Christopher Cook take the win, which isn't out of the question because Cook is in second place. But Gregorado has certainly gotten by him in a hurry, and he's not showing signs that he's going to let him through as easily. So we ride on board with Christopher just behind him. Let's see who's strong down the front stretch up towards Tarzan, Rachel.
Good on board view we just saw there as they're coming up now towards this long first straight here. We might see a pass in the foreground. It could be an opportunity, but it might go too far away for anything to happen here. As they're going to pile into turn one, this big bank corner. Huge stream of cars running in here, and it's once again, this very twisty, tight first sector, but there aren't really a lot of opportunities.
No, it's definitely not in this section. As we jump back to Solero with Will Kelly right on top of him. car I've kind of dubbed the Yellow Bird out there recently in the 22. Doing a good job to stay cool under pressure, not just with Kelly behind him, but Patrick Adamczyk is in there as well. They fly up and over through Slotemacher. Blind crest here into Shevlock. A surprisingly hard turn to hit just right. Very fast through there. And then also through this one. I always thought this one was tough through Masters, DJ. It's such a sharp little kink.
Yeah, it very much is, Joe, and it's particularly difficult because there's not a lot of good frame of reference around you when you try to get down into the braking zone. You've got to really just kind of intrinsically feel where to brake going down into that corner, so it's particularly difficult to be able to get right.
So as they break into the corner, that was a little deep there as we ride on board with Fricky, who maybe wanted to try his chances on Cook and starts to look like he's overdriving a little bit. That's going to open things up for Franznik, who I'm sure is not happy about having to give positions away right at the start of this race. But as they come onto the front stretch, Rachel, still nobody looking like they've got a chance here.
No, not yet. Still very much an individual race right now, waiting for mistakes. These guys, look at that. It was almost mathematically equal between every car. Oh, a big mistake there, though. Running wide.
Yeah, it looks like Cook is a little bit under threat now. Fricky gets in behind him. And this is bad news for Cook because he really needs max points out there today. I don't know where he is on incident points, but as we heard before, a 0x gets you 5 extra ones. So he wants to try and keep it clean, even if he has to fight hard to try and take a championship here today. Fricky, though, has no horse in this race. He just wants as good a position as he can get, maybe even a win in that 66 car. Same thing with Franznik back there. Both of them with their own motivations, DJ.
Yeah, and that can be the great spoiler here as drivers that are driving with nothing to lose, exactly, with both Fricky and Franznik being two of those drivers out there. They're also pulling back with them Solero, Kelly, Adamczyk, that whole train. It's not really back until Adam Spence that we've got a decent enough gap of about 2.5 seconds that things start to separate themselves out.
Don't need to go to it, but poor Ankerberg Zona had a self-spin coming out of Hugenholtz. He lost a few positions, banged into the Armco barrier. He's fallen down to 30th. Things starting to get a little tense up here. Franznik could almost reach out and touch that rear bumper at times with how close they get to one another. But this is where he wants to get close enough to reach him, is along the front stretch. They all try and tuck down close to that inside curb and then launch the car down the main straight and past the pits, which they will be entering soon enough. We will see the pit window open up here, I think, about now, if anybody wants to try and take a daring and unusual strategy. Oh, behind them, it was wide, Rachel. I think Will Kelly opened up the door, but I don't think Adamczyk could get through.
Yeah, I don't think it was wide enough. I think you needed a double door or one of those powered kind of... my brain's forgotten what they're called. Circular doors, rotating doors?
Sliding door, automatic door?
The rolly ones, the ones you step into and everyone kind of gets blended.
A swinging door, kind of? I can't remember.
Revolving door?
Revolving, yes.
Yes.
Between all three of our brain cells, we figured that one out. That was crucial to the broadcast.
It absolutely was. No, yes, cars, racetrack, cars go brr. This is a thing happening. But no, they are, in fact. Meanwhile, as we just cumulatively brain fire here, on board with Melleranio, 13th place here, getting himself up behind Kaufman here. Really, really tight there. We could be looking at a possible pass in the next lap or two. He's looked pretty quick so far, and he's right in there on the 828. Oh my gosh, Kaufman has mirrors full of Melleranio.
Yeah, and Adamczyk here as well, who we were watching, was very much a threat, but breaking down into the Hans Ernst chicane. Melleranio almost shakes him off, but it seems like Kaufman is too cool for that one. Look at how close these cars are still amongst each other. This larger field, DJ, has definitely given us a lot of great battles, because as soon as somebody starts to stretch away, they start to catch somebody else, or if somebody slips up, unfortunately, they find themselves being caught.
Exactly, and speaking of that, that's Buccieri and Gerling in an outright drag race coming down the main straightaway here. Buccieri down to the inside. I think he's going to be able to get that move done around, and yes, he is.
So as they Exit off the corner. Oh, and Boccieri is the one with Gerling able to make a move, and he gets a spot. Nicely done there from the 24. And he's going to cover him off before they break down into Hugenholtz. But look at behind them. If we can get a camera off the back, Walton, De Silva, Ballestieri are just climbing all over each other.
Oh, they are. It's an absolute dogfight back there over the Dutch sand dunes, or amongst the Dutch sand dunes in this case, as it really does become something exciting. Oh, God, funneling down here as the track drops away. These guys are absolutely hounding each other.
There is no room for error in and amongst them, and you can see how close that green 31 gets to Walton's one car in the yellow. Now Ballestieri tries to take advantage. And he takes a little bit of a peek into the left-hander, but even though sometimes, DJ, we've seen drivers snipe that one, he wasn't able to get it this time.
No, not able to get it done there quite yet. He's just going to have to set himself on up for a little bit more patience. I think if he had maybe had a little bit more, he could have potentially gotten a long, big brake lock up there coming down, though, into Hans Ernst.
I mentioned those mistakes. They got to keep those out. They don't want to be smoking those tires, overheating them, even though it is relatively cool on the track. Back on the front stretch in the meantime, very tight battle and a look down to the inside as the cars of Adamczyk and Kelly carry on this never-ending battle to decide sixth place. But no, Kelly will once again rebuff him, Rachel.
Yeah, no thank you, says Will Kelly in the 16 car. He doesn't want to dance. It is not his choice this evening, I think, as Adamczyk really trying to find a way in here. I think it might take a few more vodkas than that.
I won't dance, you can't make me, he says, down to that striped car behind him. And yeah, he has certainly distanced himself. In fact, is that Adam Spence starting to get a little bit closer? I just said this a minute ago, DJ. You fall off of somebody, you'll get another friend very quickly.
Very much so, and that's exactly what's had him here to Adam Spence, as he is closed into the back of Adamczyk. You've got to be careful with any of these overtaking moves, Joe. If they go wrong, they will come back to bite you.
Down through the left-hander now. If he gets a good launch, he could have a go at things, and it's a very good launch. If Spence is aggressive, he could try it down to Hans Ernst, but I think Adamczyk might be too far away. Yep, as they hit the binders, unless he really shaked him off the race line. No, they're both going to be nice and tidy. So Adamczyk went from fighting for sixth, now just desperately hoping to cling to this seventh place, Rachel.
Yeah, trying to cling indeed, as Spence will become an active threat there. They'll have to deal with, and that could also threaten Kelly. So he's got to really think about what he's doing here, because if he's holding things up a little bit too much, that could also become a problem. Although Kelly has been defending very well so far. The group ahead of them have actually pulled away a bit, and Kelly is the leader of that pack. So I'd like to see what happens if Adamczyk gets through there, or Spence. Spence has been a big mover, 11th to 8th right now for him. As we've also seen people like Gorel come up from 21st to 14th so far.
Had a problem for the 333. Peters found himself off the track, and he had help. Oh no, he had help from Tom Crane in the 864. We might want to take a look at this one, because I fear that Tom is going to be having a penalty coming his way off of that one.
Yeah, very well may be, Joe. That is not exactly the best way to do it, but we watch here as that 28 machine works its way around. Go back to check out the replay.
And I think this is going to be Crane. Yeah, Crane goes deep and then comes back, and Peter just gets kind of tipped around, unfortunately. Catches it nicely, but it certainly lost him the position.
Yeah, unfortunate timing there for that, but you will have a chance to fight this one back. We are in that pit window already by a minute, so we'll see what these guys can do in terms of where they choose to pit. If I'm one of these groups, if I'm perhaps Adamczyk, I might come in pit road now, or fairly soon, and get myself away from this group.
And that is Kelly that we were riding on board with there, who's having an almighty battle with Trip Starkey, and Kelly's out of place. Did he have a spin or something on this lap? He was farther up than that, I'm pretty certain.
Yeah, he had a spin a couple of laps ago, but I'm not seeing anything on this particular last lap here, Joe, that put him down.
He did, yeah. It was out of Masters, yeah. He went wide, and the car completely off, eventually finds its way back on, but 2 or 3 positions slipped through in the meantime.
Oh, that is disastrous there for Will Kelly. We saw him running very, very good.
Just a little update on the championship battle situation. Geiger still sits in 8th. Cook still sits in 2nd. And again, that is very easily putting the trophy in the hands of Jake Geiger unofficially. So that if that changes, we'll try and keep you up to speed. As Gorel has also headed into pit lane. He had a spin of his own, so I suspect he's either fixing some damage or just deciding might as well get out of the way of some of the other drivers that I'm fighting with here as we watch the fight coming down into Hans Ernst. This is Carl Boccieri in the number 80. Or excuse me, no, that is down into the infield section out of Masters, rather, between them. That's Gerling just in front of them. De Silva back there. Balistieri just behind them, Rachel. We were poking our noses into this a little bit earlier, and it looks like it hasn't changed much.
No, not at all. It's still absolutely on top of things. And every time we see Carlo Boccieri's camera, he is always super calm, super serene, super chill, not a fuss. Looks like he's just driving home on the evening commute on the freeway. Not a worry, not a race car blasting around the Dutch sand dunes in the middle of a dogfight here with Gerling ahead of him. But, oh, yeah, this is such a tight fight right now.
It absolutely is, and look at how close behind Boccieri is on Gerling. Gerling's going to pit in. He doesn't want any of that. He's going to try and avoid losing time by using fuel strategy to his advantage. Oh, and that's a very deep run from Balistieri. Just about nudges the rear bumper of De Silva.
Yeah, just about got into the back of him. He's very lucky he was able to whoa that car up underneath him, try to put a little bit of pressure here down into Hugenholtz, but I don't think unless you're side by side are you going to be able to get that move done. And indeed, although there was a little bit of puff of smoke there, I think, from Boccieri in front.
Yeah, he's at least getting a little bit of pressure onto him. Not enough to really cause any issues. That was the tiniest puff coming into the banking. Easy to do with the uneven pavement down into that corner as they head for Masters once more. This now becomes the fight for 14th with Boccieri leading after Gerling pitted in, and this time it's going to be De Silva who nearly runs into his rival, and it costs him instead as Balistieri cuts him off and gets to the inside. That'll put him into 15th there, Rachel.
Yeah, did that one very well there. Nicely timed with De Silva, so we'll start to see when he chooses to come for his pit stop now. He's made that win. It could undo it all, but it could also be a benefit. Gordon Frasnick here in 4th. Can Frick just ahead there? Fricky is in this fight, and we'll have to see what he can do to try and catch up there. That gap is looking relatively steady for the last couple of laps at about a second.
Yeah, the majority of the drivers still haven't pitted yet. We're expecting another 9 or so minutes before most of them start to cycle in. And then that will shuffle things up. Maybe, as we saw last time, DJ, maybe that's what some of them are waiting for, is just that right moment so that they know they can maybe leapfrog that car they've been fighting this whole time.
For sure, Joe, and I think one of the things that drivers are going to have to be a little bit careful of, because we have this bigger field, is they've got to watch out and trying to get the undercut necessarily, that it may put them out into a little bit of slower lapped traffic. And if you are in a battle here up at the front, that's about the last thing you want to have happen.
Yeah, I'm looking at the leaders, and there's not really much in the way of gaps opening up for them. There might be between the 80 and the 808. Where is that? That is 13th to 14th position. Kaufman to Boccieri. So that's really the best bet, but it's a pretty small gap. You have to know the math pretty precisely as we follow down through the left-hander. This is still the fight that is between Starkey and Geiger. We hop on board with Tripp, just behind our championship leader. Hasn't been able to try and get him out of this 8th position as he's been sitting here, I think, DJ, since the start of this race.
Yeah, he pretty much hasn't moved for the most part. A little bit of shuffling around courtesy of some of the drivers around him, but he has stayed relatively stationary, just pretty content to ride around here behind and see what he can get.
Wonder if this is the calm before the storm that we're witnessing, where we had those great battles early on. We had a few spins and errors, and then now suddenly, Rachel, it kind of feels like everybody's kind of just waiting for the time to strike as we hop on board with Krutzler back in 21st.
Yeah, it really does. And Krutzler going to try and work his way forwards here. It's been an interesting one so far for him. Looking forwards here towards Joseph Evers, see what he can do with that. Evers is in real grasping range here, so there could be an opportunity, just as McGee just ahead of them there. So this trio looking like it could be a lively one in the next lap or two.
McGee's got the most positions gained of these threes, up 8. Evers up 4. Krutzler up 1. Some of them have earned them from the trouble of those in front of them and just automatically gotten them. Oh, and Chris Pippen just had a big off through Shivlak. I think he narrowly avoided the barriers. So good save from the 042, and he'll return in 15th spot as we continue to watch this three-way battle down through Shivlak themselves. There you can see the tire tracks from Pippen just behind them as they flew through there and getting mighty close. Some of them maybe sizing them up. Krutzler there and the red, white, and blue looking to the left-hand side, DJ, but Evers is not phased, and neither is Krutzler able to attack.
Yeah, and that's exactly what you want to do there if you are Evers. Just keep on that line. That's the 39 going very, very slowly. That's Franznik down pit lane. That didn't look normal.
Yeah, he braked extremely early. I don't see any sort of black flag. He must have just maybe not practiced the pit entry enough or something, because, yeah, he slowed it up super early. And there's going to be a lot of time lost if that's the case. Well, even if it's not the case, he's going to lose time. Just gave up so much. He's back out, and he is returning in 16th. Unfortunately, he's got traffic in front of him in the form of Jeff Williams. Meanwhile, on screen, coming out of Hugenholtz there, this is the battle between Balistrieri and Boccieri. It was 4 earlier, Rachel, and it's been whittled down to 2.
Yes, it has, and that 2 can still be a very, very tense fight here, as they are really close, really on top of each other at the moment. Could see a really good opportunity for something to occur, but gap still pretty big lock up ahead. That could draw them up to him. Definitely the trickier part of the track here. A lot of flow required through this section, and you need to really compromise that corner they just came out of to set up for this really fast left here, flowing into a nice long straight section here before they come in towards the final Audi sector.
Absolutely. Don't want to be vulnerable into Hans Ernst. A lot of inside curb there. Those are pretty tall curbs that they could clip and unsettle the car, but Balistrieri manages it well. Also an update, Jeff Williams was given a black flag, so if you see him into pit lane, that is why. Oh, just kicking up the dust there. Sebastiano using every inch of the track. Now, will either of them potentially pit this time as we switch over to Franznik, still stuck behind the driver that he emerged from the pits behind, and he is allowed to race him here, DJ. They might be on differing pit strategies, but he does not have to give way.
Exactly, but it looks like there that Franznik is going to be able to maybe get a good one out of Ari Leyendijk, and it's going to be safe for him. They're pitting down into the pits. That is Jeff Williams coming on down, so he is going to have some clean air up in front of him.
So that was the one that was just black flag, so that worked out well, except for the fact that now you can see the train in front of him that he's catching up to. Meanwhile, we need to get a replay on Balistrieri's pass. The 516 did a fantastic job getting 12th away from Carl there into the first turn.
Yeah, absolutely. And really going for this here. These two, the timing is super tight. I really want to see what they can do now coming forwards here, but the replay will show you what just occurred. And, that kind of mistake, though. This is what is the best opportunity really for passes at this track. People will cook that first corner so often, and it's that opportunity that opens up.
Just feels like you can take it deeper and deeper with that banking until suddenly you can't. And we're seeing the drivers who found out they actually can't. So Adam Spence in 6th place. Ahead of him, it's Adam Chick. Before, Patrick was on the attack there with Solero in front of him, but he's dropped well off and is going to have to maybe play a little defense here soon, depending on what happens between himself and the 055. Out through Tarzan, not much change between them in that portion of the circuit. We're down to 13 minutes to go, DJ. I think we're going to start seeing more and more drivers come down the lane.
I think we are as well. Remember, we were able to get down to about 8 minutes to go in the last race before we saw everybody have to come down pit lane. This remains to be one of our closer battles out on track, and I think this is the point where you're going to see drivers really opting to go for that overtake as this battle between Boccieri and Balistieri continues to rage on.
And he took the spot right back where he lost it from. He said two can play that game. And I think he pulled, I believe, the same move on him. So Boccieri is back into 12th. These guys are putting on quite the show here. Let's take a look at it right now, Rachel.
Yeah, side by side they're coming down the pit straight. And not quite a mirror image of last time, but yes, it was kind of, no. Oh, wow. Yeah, holds it on the outside. Strong move.
Yeah, he lost it on the outside, and he took it back on the outside. So, oh, man, I tip my hat to the 80 car, but he's a little bit poor off of the second hairpin as we look ahead of them down into Hans Ernst with this battle. Melorano trying to see whether or not he can make a move on Kelly and Trip Starkey, both within striking range in front of him. Jake Geiger is starting to get far enough ahead that he no longer has to worry about this fight either. Geiger sitting in 7th now that one of the cars in front of him has pitted. Down across the start-finish line once again and into Tarzan they fly. 11 minutes to go. We're missing, looks like, DJ, I think about 20 cars still that need to stop.
Yeah, it looks like everybody's just trying to extend this pit cycle as long as possible, and I think that really is a result of just how many cars we have on track, that nobody wants to end up in that slower lap traffic. Like I said before, you saw there Will Kelly get a little bit squirrely coming through Hugenholtz, but able to get it. Just hearing Peter Kummer going to be one of the latest to come down pit lane.
Yep, so he will be the next one to get some fuel popped in and they'd be back out. Yeah, I'm looking at the gaps and still the leaders don't really have anything. Although those from, I'd say, about the 808 on down, so maybe 10th, 11th, 12th, 13th, they could pit in and they have a very wide gap behind them. So that could be something that they could take advantage of. Down towards Hans Ernst as Adam Spence tries to see if he can make Adam Chick break deep into there. No dice on that one. Oh, but he does go a little wide on the second part of the corner, Rachel. So Adam Chick certainly human.
Yeah, Adam Chick is definitely human, and I think that'll be a bit of a relief there to Tadero, and of course, well, maybe interesting for Spence. We'll have to see what he can pull from this one, but Spence definitely got his eyes on this.
Our leader's pitting. Gregorato is in. Fricky is in. Is anybody else pitting? Adam Chick is also pitting. Looks like Starkey, Melorano. Here we go. This is it. One of the more popular times to elect to pit in, and it's quite a mix, DJ. I'm seeing a back and forth almost. One pits, one doesn't.
Well, and that's some of the strategy that we talked about in the last race, Joe, that we were thinking some drivers were going to take to try to maybe get that clean air, get that hot lap if the driver that you were battling with were to come in. That obviously didn't play out there. Christopher Cook here going to have a little bit of a problem, though. He's got some lap traffic directly up in front of him. That could scupper this lap. That's Bob Moore, about 0.6 of a second up the road.
Yeah, and right now Gregorato is back out without much hindrance. He does have Kaufman in front of him, but he's too far away to really cause issues through even the fast corners with the dirty air. So I think this will work out well, especially if we see Kaufman pit in this time. But we're watching the driver who inherited the lead here, Christopher Cook. So maybe that's why we saw Gregorato pit in when he did. And yeah, I think this is not going to be good for the 47 when we see him head towards the pit lane, because that blue and white 772 is just become a bit of a roadblock, and now Cook announces he will be pitting in.
Yeah, that doesn't surprise me there at all, Joe, as he is going to come down pit lane, and now we're going to have to see the race here off of the line to see who's able to get through there faster.
We ride with Gregorato as he approaches the last couple corners. Christopher Cook looked like he had a pretty decent entry. Solero now is in. Adam Spence, Geiger pits, so this should be the last of our drivers unless somebody is really light with that right foot. Down the front stretch, It's going to be a late pit exit here for Cook. It's way towards that first corner, but he's already passed them with ease. Look at that. That bright blue car is Chris, and he is nowhere near him. The distance is going to be close to 3 seconds, Rachel. That might be race over.
It could be. That is a huge difference. That was a really rough one. I wasn't expecting to go that way. Yeah, I know. That's more than I expected by a long mile.
So Cook is both going to have to run him down and pass him if he wants to beat Gregorato and take as many points as he can. So where is Geiger? Geiger's done with his pit stop and out. He's in 8th position still. And championship unofficially is within reach of him now that they're done with that part of the race. Only 7 more minutes as we come back to Ballestieri. This has been one of my favorite fights all race here, DJ, between Seb and Carl.
Yeah, it truly has. And remember, these two are teammates, so they're probably in communication with each other, and they're just having the time of their life. Ballestieri with a good run down the back stretch right here. But is he going to go for a little bit of a dive in a sleeve lock? He thought about it, not going to go for it outright.
That would be an ill-advised move, honestly, especially on a teammate. They do not want to take each other out at this stage. It is the last race, but we want to see them get to the checkered flag. A defensive move from Carl this time. Ballestieri tries to back up the corner, but no, it doesn't pay dividends, Rachel.
No, it does not, unfortunately. He's really wanted something out of this, but they're back at it again, side by side here. This will draw them into the guys behind them if they're not careful.
There's a very unusual run there from Carl through the second hairpin. Again, he has to cover off as Seb tries to send it up into Hans Ernst. Now accelerating off towards Kumho. I think Seb has been slowed up by that one. We look at Chris Pippen, who's also in a bit of a fight. He's been working on Gerling after Pippen had his off earlier on. And Antonio De Silva also involved. There you can see in the green car, but he is nowhere near the racing line down through Lyondike.
No, and that certainly cost him some time. You need to be on that traditional line to carry as much speed and momentum around that final corner as possible. But as you said, that battling with Boccieri, big lock up there up in front. I'm not sure exactly who that was from. I think that may have been from Gerling.
One of the more impressive stats on this one is despite it not being that long of a lap, it's 1:38, so it's decent. It's about midway compared to most circuits for GT cars. Yet we've only had one car lapped, and that's Randy Teague, who's had a penalty. Everybody else is still on the lead lap out here.
Yeah, they are so far, and it's been a really impressive run by these guys. The speeds have been really consistent. Looking at our qualifying times in this race, we had a 37.7 for our pole. Our 38.7 here was 11th place. A little bit faster field than we had in the course challenge, but not hugely.
Yeah, great job by everybody involved out here today. Also been quite a clean race, and I feel safe saying that on this one because we've only got 5 minutes left unless something absolutely insane happens out there. I think it looks like we can call this one pretty good. But heading down into Hans Ernst once again, just keeping an eye on these mid-pack battles that have certainly been plenty fun to watch. Oh, and not only was that tight between Gerling and Pippen, but that was an off track for De Silva, who's going to have to hand some time back, DJ, as he cut the course.
Yeah, he most certainly will, and it looks like he's going to try to bleed it off as slowly as possible. You have normally about 35 to 40 seconds to try to give that time back, and he is going to try to do it as slowly as possible without losing as much time.
Gerling's up 2, Pippen's down 2. Will they swap around and be each one a piece? Not this time. Pippen definitely trying to get his nose underneath, but couldn't quite make that stick. And let's see, under 4 minutes to go. So we might be 2 laps to go next time by for Gregorato. I have to keep an eye on him. But this is the more interesting thing to watch right now. Very good exit, though. Looks like potentially Pippen might have a run. Looks like Rachel, he starts to fall away.
Yeah, a little bit, not quite got the headwind there to get anything going on here, or tailwind, I should say, in this case. That would be the wrong analogy to use, but the gap has kind of reset itself a little bit. We'll see if we can push a little bit harder, maybe make something happen, but stabilize for now. With 3 minutes on the board, might not be enough time.
Yep, it is 2 laps to go. I can confirm Gregorato is heading across the line just about now. There he is right there. 2.5 seconds over Christopher Cook. He was quicker by about half a second in his pit stall, and that really helped him solidify that lead. He's looked unflappable for the remainder of it. It's too little too late for Christopher Cook to try and catch up to Geiger in the points championship here in the last race of Series 8. Geiger, he must have gotten overtaken by, I think, Melorano, because he's down in 9th.
Yeah, he did indeed get overtaken by Melorano, and Melorano able to pull out about a 7.5 tenths of a second gap right now after making that pass. So Geiger's race is right back where he started, actually, Joe. He is in 9th. He started 9th.
Guess you can't complain too much. Oh, and Gerling, who we said was under threat from Pippin, just gave it up. The latest victim from Tarzan, as he swung out a little bit too wide and unfortunately couldn't bring the vine back in time. So he'll fall to 16th with that one, Rachel.
Yes, that he will. And at the moment, that's going to be a little unreclaimable. That's not even English, but we'll go with it. I think with the timing here, under 2 minutes now. That might be where he finishes tonight, as we're looking here at Spence from the Kansas City region here. Been a busy race for him, of course. Frasnick ahead of him now. Gone in that gap between him and Adam Check. Adam checked out, and he's got off into the distance.
Well played on that one.
Yeah,
Frasnick, in the meantime, Frasnick was fighting, wasn't it, with Fricky and Cook a little bit earlier in this race? I'm looking at the pit stop. It was about 8.7 seconds. That's a little slow, DJ. I didn't think it was that slow, though.
Neither did I, and I'm looking back at some of the lap times, and it doesn't look like he lost a whole lot of it, but that battle surely is on now here, Joe, so I'm not entirely sure what happened.
Very strange stuff there from the 39. Could be, I mean, sometimes there's been so much happening here during today's 2 races. Maybe we just forgot about an incident we saw with him. But white flag has been flying for Greg Arado, and you can see him on your screen. He is starting to lap a few more cars. Tom Crane was the latest, who is unfortunately holding up Yurtsa. No, actually, Yurtsa just went by him. So that was for position for the 54. A little love for him after he's also suffered from the black flag. As Greg Arado heads out of the old track into the new one, new-ish, really. This section was built, I believe, in either the late 80s or early 90s. As they come out of the second hairpin, Christopher Cook still hovering at 2.5 seconds back. Credit to that 47 for making sure and pushing till the end to make sure that Enrico can't do anything silly during the last bit of the race. But he didn't get anything silly out of that scaly-looking number 7. It looks like Enrico Gregorado is going to finish off Series 8 with a victory here as he comes out of Luijendijk and takes the win here in the Netherlands at Zandvoort, DJ.
A commanding drive from him there. He had to face off that pressure from Christopher Cook, who will be able to finish in P2 behind him. A great drive. Here is Jake Geiger, though, coming across the line in P9.
That was the first win of Series 8 for Greg Arado, so he's got to be celebrating right now. Geiger, unofficially champion from what we can tell, and it seems pretty solid on my end on the math, but they do have to confirm it over the rules post-race, so that's why we have to make sure and clarify it's not been nailed down. Antonio da Silva coming up a little bit shy. A lot more cars fighting to the end on this one, because 29 of them are going to wind up seeing all 24 laps completed.
Certainly has been, and that's been a really wild one here for us. This track has really been a test, I think, so far. We've had less on-track incidents in this race than we had in the last one, but they were mostly solo initiated in the first race, so both races have been clean in terms of inter-driver kind of action, so we'll have to see what happens in the next ones.
Ooh, Greg Gorel had a spin coming out of Hans Ernst, and he lost a number of spots. Eventually got it going. He'll wind up 25th. That's got to be extremely disappointing. But this battle I've also been keeping an eye on, because it's been very tight. And I think Frost may have taken this position. No, he has not. He started this in 28th, and he's going to finish at 28th and Mungia just can't manage to get it away from him. That's going to take us to our finishing results here for the last race of Series 8 for the sport class. And Gregorado finally gets that win. Christopher Cook couldn't do enough to get max points, and he's going to wind up second in the championship as he was second in the race today. Kim Fricke was P3 as Anthony Solero was fourth. Then it's Patrick Adamczyk fifth and James Franznik in sixth, falling backwards slightly. Adam Spence was seventh. Nick Melorano is going to be eighth, up from 16th. Great job, Jake Geiger. We believe taking the championship unofficially from ninth, and Will Kelly DJ rounds out your top 10.
Coming home in 11th, it was Trip Starkey, followed by David Kaufman with that fantastic battle we were following the whole race between Carl Buccieri and Sebastiano Ballestieri in 13th and 14th. Chris Pippen was 15th, followed by Adam Gerling and Antonio Da Silva. Just behind him was Gregory Sampson with David Krutzler and Robert Walton rounding out your top 20.
21st tonight is Ryan McGee with Joseph Evers 22nd, Ward Preston 23rd, Peter Kuma in 24th, Gregory Gorrell in 25th. Behind them, Anke Bergson in 26th, Jeff Williams 27th, Mark A. Frost 28th, Will Bungia in 29th, and Peter Yerkes, their first car one lap down in 30th.
Impressively, all 34 drivers saw the checkered flag. Kane, Palmer, Moore, and Teague were all a lap down, but did get to finish the race. It looks like we are going to get to talk to Gregorado here today. And if there's one thing you want in a series, especially if you can't take a championship, Enrico, it's got to be to finish on a win, have that momentum, end on a high. So I got to think you're feeling good right now.
Yeah, I'm feeling great. That was my objective after a bit of a poor start to the season, recovering, winning 2 races and podium as well in another race. So it's been a good season overall. It's a shame I kind of threw it away in the first few races.
Yeah, a little bit, but I mean, give yourself a pat on the back for this one, because you managed this race so well in a number of ways, especially right off the bat with the start. You began from second place and you got that track position down into the first corner. One, were you surprised at yourself? Two, did you kind of feel like, all right, that's job one done. Now let's bring it home from here?
I wasn't really surprised. I've been starting quite well. I've been practicing it a lot. I think I got a great start in Monza, but I had to back off because I was in the danger zone on the grass. But I knew if I could get level with Chris into the first corner, I would probably come out on top coming out of the corner. So yeah, I wasn't that surprised. I'm just happy that it worked. Sometimes it does go wrong and you spin the wheels, but a lot of practice has paid off, I think.
You said that you were disappointed earlier in Series 8 about some of the results, but this one, finishing with a win, would you consider Zandvoort one of your stronger tracks? Are you used to this one?
Actually, it's the first time I race here, but I quite like the twisty tracks. I also won at Winton, so that's also kind of very similar track where you are on the edge almost all the way around the track. So maybe it's just the type of track that suits me more.
All right. Well, again, congratulations. Anybody you want to thank that helped bring you this victory?
Thank you. Yeah, as usual, my family who put up with me doing this. And then everybody at PCA Sim Racing, the organizers and everyone that takes part, all the guys in sport class, they've been awesome. We've had massive turnouts at every event. It's been a great season. And then you guys at Podium, because it's always great to go back and watch the excellent broadcast you guys do. So that's what I'm doing tonight.
Great stuff there from Enrico Gregorado. As DJ is now caught up with second, both in points and the race, Christopher Cook.
I have indeed, Christopher, a great battle there at the beginning. Talk me through what that was like trying to chase down on Enrico in the beginning stages of this race.
Oh, wow. Enrico was incredibly fast. He's been really strong all season long. And so, that pressure into turn one, I said, I'll just take a seat and then follow him through. And maybe the pit strategy will work in my favor.
Well, I mean, obviously, you made the call to come in a little bit later. How did that? I mean, obviously, you lost out on the strategy a little bit there, but what prompted that decision? Was that just trying to jump him, or were you trying to go as long as you could?
I was trying to go as long as I could, but at the same time, I didn't want to pit at the same time as him due to that tricky entrance. And so, unfortunately, I got stuck up a little bit behind some traffic, and then it just did not work. But hey, great window, Enrico.
Well, I'll pose the same kind of question to you that Joe posed to Enrico. How do you like this kind of Zandvoort circuit? I mean, we sort of run the gamut in terms of different places to run on this year. And where does this one rank on your preferences?
It ranks pretty high, but only because it's so scary. There's so many spin zones and bumps and whirls that your qualifying pace cannot be your race pace. And so I really do appreciate that challenge.
Well, we loved being able to watch the challenge for all you drivers, and kudos keeping all 4 tires on the black stuff. But Chris, anybody you would like to thank for today and for the season?
Oh, yeah. For the season, I got to thank my friends Kevin, Skylar, and Cameron. They've been supporting me all season long, and I thank them for that. And, of course, Enrico and Kim for keeping it clean today. And then Podium Esports, the PCA, the volunteers, and, of course, lastly, my wife. Without her, this wouldn't be possible.
Well, Christopher Crook, thank you so much, and congratulations again on a second place here today.
Hey, thank you so much.
All right, that was Chris Cook, your second place finisher. And Rachel, I believe you've caught up with P3.
I have Kim Fricke here in third place tonight. Kim, a really, really busy race on track tonight. 2 positions gained overall for you. Just what is it do you like dealing with traffic on this track?
Actually, traffic wasn't so bad at all. Everybody was pretty respectful and no problems at all.
So what do you find the trickiest part of running at Zandvoort? Is this track familiar to you or a new one?
It's not very familiar to me, but it's a very busy track, and boy, it's a chore just to keep the car on the track, and lots of places to lose it, and yeah, very very busy track.
So give me a summary of your season this year so far in the sport class. How's it been?
Oh, it's a mixture of good races, not so good races. I missed a few due to travel, so unfortunately, I'm not in contention for anything. But it's in it just for the fun, and yeah, it's been great.
That's awesome to hear. Anybody you'd like to give a shout out to or thank?
Well, yeah, the PCA sim racing folks that work behind the scenes to make all this possible, they do a fantastic job, and my wife and family for letting me spend all the time doing this.
Awesome. Well, thanks for joining us, Kim Fricke, coming home today in third.
Thanks, Rachel.
And while this will close things out, I actually want to give a personal special thank you and a message of my own, as it is the 9th anniversary for my wife and I this evening. So I love you, Kaylee, and happy anniversary, sweetie. But I also want to mention that we'll be here again at Zandvoort next time at 9 p.m. Eastern on Friday, May 13th, live here on Podium Esports. We want to give a big thank you to the steering committee at PCA Sim Racing, and a huge thanks to our team tonight, DJ, Rachel, Ryan, Cameron, and Dougie. Also, none of this would be possible without those behind the scenes at Podium Esports, Ryan Bauer, Gary Sexton, and John Theodore. Thank you so much for watching tonight's broadcast of PCA Sim Racing. I'm Joe Peak, and I'll see you on the track.